The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Step outside of your comfort zone. See the world with a whole new perspective. Join us and experience the unexplained on the Paranormal View.
Welcome everybody to the Paranormal View on the Parax Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be with us tonight. Those listening here in the chat room and those listening from around the world, we appreciate each and every one of you. If you are listening from somewhere else other than the chat room and want to come over and join the people, come over to para-x.com, click on the live chat button at the top of the page, and you'll be in with all these wonderful people. Want to welcome everybody spending the night with us tonight. We had a little bit of technical difficulties starting the show last night. So I'm going to be talking just for a few minutes here and trying to fill in so we'll have enough for the 2-hour show. And then I will bring everybody else in here in just a little bit, and the show will pick it up because it had already started. So, but you only miss a little bit of the show, but because we had some technical difficulties, it was quite a bit, about 20 minutes worth. So, but we do have a great show. We have a great guest, and we got with us on the show Jeffrey Gould. We have Barbara Duncan, and we have a wonderful guest, Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson has some books called Ohio Legends, and they're very interesting books. It's the kind of book that you can have laying around on your coffee table or out if somebody comes in, just wants to look through and read a lot about Ohio, really. It talks about different presidents from Ohio, people like George Armstrong Custer, a lot of people and backstories that you haven't heard of. People from way back in the early 1800s. So it is a very interesting book. Has a lot of little facts in it. There's all sorts of different stories on, on Indians from the area, different towns, facts about Ohio. Talks about buffalo herds. You wouldn't have thought of buffalo herds being in Ohio, but there was some large herds of buffalo in Ohio. Some of the largest east of the Mississippi. So those are just some of the things. Talks about astronauts, different catastrophes from around Ohio. There's people like Edgar Case. There is Ohio's first female sheriff. Talks about that one. There is just so much in this book that once you want to read about it and start reading in it, I should say, you kind of like keep wanting to read more and find out more about all these little stories and stuff that's in here. Let's see. We got Ulysses S. Grant. You got talks about there was Gypsy Kings buried in Woodlawn Hills Cemetery in Ohio. More and more and more. Just little fun facts. It talks about different names of the cities. Oddball names, you might say. Let's see. I see Harriet Beecher Stowe. There's a story in here about Roy Rogers, Eddie Rickenbacker, and it just goes on and on. There is a lot of interesting ones, a lot that we didn't get to talk about during the show, but it's a book you can get online, Amazon.com, and look them up. The book is called Ohio Legends, Volume 1. He also has Ohio Legends, Volume 2, and he's working on Volume 3. So there's all kinds of fun little facts and stories about Ohio, everything in here. You wouldn't understand just how much. Jeff even said, does everything come from Ohio? And a lot of it did. So I haven't seen books like these again about other states. There could be, but I haven't heard of them. So, but really interesting. So you need to see about trying to order one of those books. They're great little stories in them. Now, we talk quite a bit about some of the certain stories. I'm not going to tell you about them because you'll be hearing them during the show. A lot of good fun facts. Jeff was on location at some event, so he was on with us on his cell phone. And, of course, Barbara was with us. We had some problems with Skype to start with, so I ended up having to drop everybody to reboot Skype and bring them back in. So it took a few minutes for all that to take place. And that's why we lost some of the show. But we got some guests that will be coming up. Next week we have Tina Marie Ronan. She's into a lot of stuff. She makes jewelry. She is into Reiki, and she's an investigator. She goes to places with us, and we have a great time with her. She's real fun. Gets me into trouble, or tries to get me into trouble, I should say. But we have a guy by the name of Barry Strom coming up in a week or so, a couple of weeks, I guess. He has a book called Spirits Speak, and he channels a lot of this stuff. I don't know too much about channeling, but we will be finding out when we have him on in a couple of weeks. Lots and lots of good stuff we have lined up here on the Paranormal View, and I just want to thank all the fans that follow us, those that come in and listen regularly to the show, those listening regularly from around the world. We appreciate everybody. I haven't been doing a lot lately as far as going out and investigating. I'm getting back into that. Be starting in a couple of weeks. And I've got one place lined up. I've got another one going to be lined up. And I'm working on some things, maybe trying to get a group together to go to a place called Post Town. That'll be really interesting. I've been there numerous times, just a short distance from the house, and they've been having some issues of trying to keep the place, and we'll try and do an event there kind of so to help out and try and get them money. So we do appreciate Daryl Wisman with Post Town. Interesting place. It's a nice old school. I've kind of investigated it, but not really investigated it, because when I was there was a lot of people from an event that was running around everywhere, and you couldn't really actually do much because sound travels pretty good in that place. So you wasn't going to get a whole lot of EVPs or interaction with anything. So if you have some ideas for guests that you might like to hear on our show, you can send us a message to theparanormalview@gmail.com, and we will get that. I have guests already lined up all the way through, or into, I should say, August. So some recurring and some new guests. So got lots of good stuff coming up for the show. And I still got a few more minutes here that I got to talk before I can blend this into our show. And it'll start off, they'll already be talking. So you won't hear any intro once everybody else comes in onto the show. But I got to fill this out so it will have at least 2 hours so we can make a podcast and put it up. Because they do replay this on the air through the week on parax.com. Because if there's not a live show going on, they do play podcasts of shows. So you might hear it 2 or 3 times during the week. And, of course, you can always go to the paranormalview.com webpage and listen to a lot of our podcasts. I keep, I don't know, a number of them up. I only have so much space, so after a while I take some of the older ones down to make room for newer ones. But there must be at least 15, 20 shows on there that you can listen to. Some really good ones. And if you go to our website, theparanormalview.com, there's also links on there for Jeff and for Barbara, all their information. And if you go to Jeff has a link to where he has all of our podcasts stored. And you can go to that site and listen to any of our podcasts going all the way back to, I want to say, close to 2010, 2011, somewhere in that neighborhood. So most all of our shows are on that site, and there's some really good shows that we've had over the years. Some better than others, but all of our shows are good. At least I think so. We've had a lot of changes on ParaX, a lot of changes on the Paranormal View over the years. We started out in 2008 with Beth Brown and myself, and we did shows for about 2 years. And Beth had other things she wanted to branch out into and dropped off. I picked up Craig Rupp and Jeffrey Gould as co-hosts. Craig Rupp was with us for, I want to say, a year, 2 years. And Craig Rupp had other things that he was getting into or doing and didn't have the time, so he dropped off, and we picked up Barbara Duncan and Kat Cloco. And they was with us for, well, Barbara's still with us. Kat Cloco dropped off last year, I believe it was, and she is now doing comic books. That takes all of her time illustrating, going to comic cons and all that, trying to sell her comics, and she's doing pretty good with it. So she's pretty busy with that, and she's also going to be having a little one running around sometime later this fall. So good luck to everybody. I do want to thank you again for taking the time to actually spend time with us every week. I know that I have some pretty faithful followers who really come in a lot to listen to our shows. And we have some friends too. Rock with a Shock, who also does a show on Friday and Saturday night called Rock with a Shock, and he plays oldies from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and takes requests. You can go into his site and listen live to those shows. However, on a Saturday night, he's still doing his show as ours is going, so a lot of times when his show ends at 9, we have a lot of the listeners from his show comes over and starts listening to our show. Appreciate all those people too. Do a great job with that. We have events that Paranormal View does from time to time. Usually every year, people from everywhere that follows us meets up in Gettysburg. We've done that for the last 4 or 5 years. We're looking into maybe going to a different location next year. Got a couple of them in mind. I know there is a place called Moundsville. It's a prison that's pretty active, so we're talking about maybe looking into having everybody that wants to go with us next year to go there. We also have places here in Ohio, like Post Town. If it's still going and stuff, maybe we can see about having a group come into there and do that. There's some other places around too, and if you have suggestions that you'd like to send to us to see about, in case you wanted to join us, send those locations in. If you've got a good place that's going to support and have hotels and different things like that, where we can have a meeting and not just go to the one place, but there might be 2 or 3 other places around the area that we can actually visit during the daytime or something to get some of the history and everything of the area. So if you have all those or anything like that, please send them to the Paranormal View at gmail.com, and we will look at those and maybe choose something somewhere else. So I guess I'm getting fairly close to filling up to time here. I've just been rambling, but I hope I haven't bored too many people listening to the podcast with this. I'm not necessarily an orator, and that's why I have 2 other co-hosts, so I don't have to do a lot of talking. But I'm also on Facebook. You can look up Henry Foister on Facebook. I post a lot of the stuff on Facebook about the shows that we're going to be having. Also, if you look up the Paranormal View on ParaX, it's a community page. You can see a lot of stuff about the Paranormal View because Jeff posts different stories and articles and all that good stuff from around our shows and a lot of other things. Posts them on that page. He does a great job with that. So it's very interesting. You can get on there and see a lot about the Paranormal View, not just the Paranormal View, but he puts articles from a lot of different things on there that deals with the paranormal. It could be UFOs or whatever, cryptids. He just posts all kinds of stuff on there. Interesting. So with that, we are coming up on just about time for me to go ahead and start the show, and it'll pick up where they have left off. And it'll be an interesting show. Jeff Wilson does a great job. Little sound issues here and there sometimes, but the show itself was really good. He had a lot of great stories about Ohio. So with that, I will be starting it here in just a minute. If you enjoy the show, drop us a line and let us know. We really do appreciate it. And we have listeners from around the world too that listens to the show. A lot of people listens to our podcasts from a lot of the different countries. It is amazing at the amount of different countries that actually comes in and listens to our shows. So, and I really appreciate them too for taking the time to listen and be with us. So, with that, let's see here. I got just about a minute left before we get started. And I want to thank everybody again for listening to this, just me babble on here for the first 25 minutes. It's really a good show. So you'll have to listen to it. Take your time, sit back. If you wasn't listening to it live, you'll like listening to the podcast. We really do appreciate everybody. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and do a commercial, and then we're going to go right on over into the show.
And now I think it's Mark Mothersbaugh. He is doing great incidental music for like techno-based like TV shows, and a lot of times you can watch the credits on a lot of current films. He's in there generally because they regardless of, a lot of people either love him or they hate him. But they did push back some frontiers. They're really good. And like you said, they got a lot of airplay on MTV. But they're still around and they're still making music. Not the group itself, but just members of the group, like the Mothersbaugh Brothers.
Well, now they also didn't they do Christian music too?
No, this is part of Devo, which is part of the strange humor that they had going on. Before they would give a concert, okay, what they would do is they would have as a warm-up act the same Devo group, but they would dress differently and they would do different, they would do religious music. But they called themselves Dove, okay, and that's kind of an anagram of Devo. And they did religious versions of their own Devo songs, and were also known to sometimes before a concert, as the warm-up music would start, they would play Muzak versions of their songs, the Devo songs, to get the audience into a right strange mood. So there's a lot of humor that's going on there, and a lot of really creative people. But like I said, because of their look, I had to do a page on.
Well, now, like Jeffrey was saying, he couldn't believe, he's thinking that everybody come from Ohio. And when you start looking through this book and looking at the names of the people and stuff, the first thing is, wow, all these people from Ohio? And there is a ton of presidents and generals from the Civil War, and all kinds of great stories that you have about different people, and some of the backstories with it that you have is pretty interesting.
It's one of those things where I did a couple of pages and a couple of stories, and then when I was that far, I kept coming across more and more. Ohio used to be the West, and Ohio used to be pretty much the undisputed economic and industrial leader of the nation once upon a time. And these people, some call them giants, like John Patterson, Charles Kettering. Everybody knows that he had the Kettering came up with the electric starter for automobiles, and of course Edison is from Ohio. And there was just so many of these people. I think it was in 1910 that Wilbur Wright said, if I were to give advice to a young man on how to succeed in life, I would pick a good father and mother and begin life in Ohio. And that was pretty much the mindset of people at the time. And these people, they were all visionaries, and they were all creators and industrialists. And they made a pile of money, and it is right that they should. But at the same time, they don't fit into the modern mold of how people should be. Like John Patterson, he's the guy who started NCR. Now this guy, I still can't figure this guy out. Okay, he loved his workers. He just loved the people who worked for him. He had his desk taken from the offices, and he put it on the plant floor, and he provided free lunch for his employees. He provided daycare for his employees. He provided he redesigned his buildings so he would have all these floor-to-ceiling walls where they could let in fresh air and light for his employees. I mean, he loved his people. He even went as far as to have continuing education for his people. And also, he even, if it was raining, when female employees would leave the plant, he would pass out umbrellas. Now, what kind of guy is this? But at the same time, he was doing all those fantastic things and really helping out his employees. He was very, very tough on his managers. He insisted that every one of his managers join him on a spirited horseback ride at the crack of dawn every day. And because he said that a manager that can't handle a horse can't handle men. And he was known to fire people for little or no reason. I mean, he fired Charles Kettering, for being messy. I mean, he fired Tom Watson. Now, Tom Watson, he didn't take it very well, and he started this little thing called IBM. But if you were a manager and you worked for National Cash Register, you had a tough road to hoe. One manager, he arrived at work and knew that he was fired because John Patterson had his personal belongings and his desk and his chair moved outside the plant and set on fire. And that's where the phrase...
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that's where the phrase, "you're fired," comes from. It doesn't come from, our president and all that, but that's where it originally had its roots, and that's what this guy did. It was a wonderful nut. But anyway, along with these, there are a bunch of other forward-thinking people that, that came up with a lot of great things. Leonard Luzerne Kruster, he was a Dayton native, and he invented this one device that was for measuring the rise and fall of an aircraft, okay? And it was called the Lester Stratoscope, okay? But what he did is he went on from there, and he also manufactured microcars, electric and gas microcars, to be used in amusement parks. Now, a real big hit that he had was the Sea Cycle. It was have you seen those paddle boats that you had that have like bicycle-like wheels that you rent and paddle about? He designed and came up with that. But his biggest contribution was the Custer chair. Now, the Custer chair was the first manufactured and patented electric wheelchair in America. And now Custer himself, he was an invalid, and his electric chair could go 10 to 15 miles without a recharge. Now, when I talk about how a little nutty these people were, Custer got it in his head one day that he wanted to build a whipping machine for the Dayton Board of Education. They didn't take too well to the idea, and the idea did not get off the drawing board. So, but anyway, have you got more?
Yeah, we got lots. I think what we're going to do, though, is take us a quick little break.
Yes, sir.
And when we come back, we will be talking a whole lot more. Also, if you do have questions, private chat them to Henry Foister or Ceiling Cat, and we will get those answered for you. With that, Jeff, you want to do a little quick thing, take us out?
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm not muted, am I?
No, you're good.
No, okay. No. Well, you're listening to the Paranormal View on para-x.com. It's your hosts, Henry Foister, Ceiling Cat, Barbara Duncan, and myself, Jeff Regould, with tonight's guest, author and illustrator, Jeff Wilson. So stay tuned for more of the Paranormal View after the break.
Whether you're listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making Para-X part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal, Para-X.
And welcome back, everybody, right here to the Paranormal View on the Para-X Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be with us tonight. Those listening in the chat room and those listening from around the world, we appreciate each and every one of you. I want to welcome back Barbara Duncan.
Howdy, folks.
And Jeffrey Gould.
Hello, hello.
And Jeff Wilson.
Hello.
All right. Speaking of people from around the world, Barbara, where do we have listeners at tonight?
Henry, they're coming in from the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, and Unknown is back.
All right. The Unknown.
I'm guessing that's Jeff Green in Australia?
Yeah, they spy on us a lot, probably. Not probably somebody like Jeff. Yeah. He listens all the time, so we really appreciate him. So,
And that's a trilogy of Jeff.
I know. They're just all over the place, aren't they? They must all come from Ohio.
Well, now it's apparently not us anymore, but, you know.
Jeff, we noticed that you seem to have a lot of background noise. Are you moving around your microphone and stuff like that, or moving papers or something?
No, it's me, Jeff, right? Not Jeffrey, Jeff, right?
Right, it's Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I promise I'm not touching the microphone, but still, like I said, it's
a chair.
It's gone. Yeah, it must be the chair. I promise I will sit still. With no fan on and this sweltering heat.
The microphone does pick that up, so.
Okay, I'll be more careful.
Got one here, and Jeff and Barbara, because they're out on the West Coast. Well, Barbara's in San Francisco area, and Jeff's in the Los Angeles area. But you got a story in here about a person from Ohio who ended up going out to Los Angeles, wanted to be a movie star. Her name is Peg and
Twistle. Yes.
Why don't you tell us that story?
The Peg and Twistle story. That's sometimes there are sad stories in there, but Peg and Twistle was she was, like you said, a kind of a star, and I think one of the last parts that she was in was with Humphrey Bogart in a movie that was kind of like a B movie, didn't really do well. But she was the woman who threw herself off the Hollywood sign and committed suicide that way. She's said still there are frequent sightings of her. They call her the Lady in White, and she said to have disappeared when approached. Well, the sad part about it and the strange part too, was the day after she committed suicide, in the mail she was offered a part in another movie, and the movie was about a lady who, in the closing of the movie, committed suicide. So it's one of those stories. She grew up in Cincinnati, and the picture I drew of her does her some justice, but not completely. But it's a very sad story.
Which is
So I really,
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
all of us in Los Angeles now. I didn't know that I knew that she was from elsewhere. I never knew it was Ohio.
Well, actually, she was born in Wales, but her family emigrated early on when she was a child and grew up in Cincinnati. That's the linkage that I always try to keep with all those stories. They have to be natives born here or done something remarkable here that got them their start or got them their finish, you know. But the whole common denominator in this whole thing was Ohio, and to try to get kids interested in our history, because it's not really taught in classrooms anymore. Ohio history isn't. So if I come up with enough weird stuff, and hopefully I can bite some innocent kid with the history bug, and we'll go on to do something better. But like I said, these books are not 1,500-page, tomes that you need a two-wheeler to carry around with a bunch of dry and dusty knowledge. These are about real people that have overcome obstacles and done incredible things. And it started here in Ohio,
Now, all the photograph or the drawings that's in the book, you did those, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I did them all. That was the most fun part of the whole thing, and for me, because I tried very hard to focus on what they would, to bring them back to life for a couple of seconds, in my mind. And a lot of times you can tell much from the look on the people's face, and then when you get some of the background story, you get an idea of what these people were like. They were real, living people that were involved in some rich and diverse history. It's amazing. And for me, I was able to do for Black History Month a hero for every day of February, I believe. We had African American Medal of Honor winner, people like Garrett Morgan, who, if you remember, this one's in two, and I shouldn't say it, but I'll go on with it. Garrett Morgan started his career repairing sewing machines, I believe, and he invented a gas mask so that way the firemen could enter burning buildings safely. And there was a cave-in a tunnel that they were building under Lake Erie, and 39 men were trapped and suffocating to death. And he took his gas mask and went in there and carried everyone out on his back, saved 39 people's lives that way. And then later in life, he was doing very well with his gas mask because of all the hoopla and the stories that surround that, how, it was a heroic act that he did. But the part of the story that touched me was that later on in life, he saw a traffic accident between an automobile and a horse and carriage. Now, here in Ohio, there's a lot of horses and carriages around because of our Amish community that we have. And anyway, the accident was so bad that the horse had to be destroyed. So he thought there has to be something better. And he came up with the automatic traffic signal. And it became a standard that everybody uses across the United States. And GE bought his patent, and he did very well from there on in. But it was one of those things where he had an incredible, rich and diverse mind that he had gotten many patents for many of these devices that we just take for granted every day. And he was an African American too, but that's another story.
Now, like we're saying, there was a lot of people who has come from Ohio, famous names, and one of them is George Custer Armstrong.
Yes. Yes, he's a wonderful nut. He really was. I think he appears in a couple of pages. One of them was famous last words, because one of his famous last words that was the last thing that was historically that anyone heard him say was, come on boys, we've got him. In an hour or so, we'll be back at our station. So I think he's a little long that one, but yeah, he used to take his wife with him on a lot of these expeditions that he had, and he had a standing order with his officers that if they were overwhelmed by Indians, they were to quit. They were to not shoot the Indians, but shoot his wife first. The idea was that he was worried that she would be tortured, and but it is another, the guy he was fearless. He was completely fearless, and it carried him during the Civil War. And he was appointed like a brevet general when he was only like 29 years old, something crazy like that. But the only survivor of the Battle of Little Bighorn was Miles Keogh's horse. They discovered Miles Keogh's horse. He was, I believe, he was one of Custer's officers, and he was found to have like 6 bullet wounds, but they took him back and nursed him back to health, and he was pretty much a celebrity at Fort Riley, Kansas. And it's said that his horse developed a great fondness for beer.
Yeah, I guess all the men and all the other horses were killed by the Indians except that one horse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty interesting. We also have our share of monsters and stuff too. On page 42, you got one.
Let's see which one that one is. See, a lot of times when I will give a PowerPoint presentation and I get to the paranormal stuff, a lot of people really like this stuff. This one is about Dunkelostus, I believe.
Yeah,
and
it is.
It was a prehistoric creature that was discovered in 1867. It was roughly the size of a bus, and it used to feed on a steady diet of sharks. Thankfully, they all died out about 360 million years ago. I wouldn't like to see anything like that rummaging around Lake Erie today.
Well, now, are those considered seawater ways? I thought they was freshwater.
Yes. Yes.
But they had sharks in them back then.
Yeah, well, this is way back when, like I said, 360 million years ago, and they were in the sea. I'm imagining they were saltwater.
Right.
But it's the fossil evidence that they have is at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. But anything that big and would feed on sharks, you can have it.
Jeffrey, brother, you was going to say something.
Huh?
You were going to say something.
Me or he?
You, Jeffrey.
Oh, well, I wasn't expecting to, but I could. I guess what gets me about the illustration is the beaks on this creature. I mean, that is something you do not want chomping down on you.
And the funny part about it, well, it's not funny, but they're real. They were here, and it doesn't have a ferocious sounding name. It's kind of a dumb sounding name, Dunkelostus, but it must have been a terrible predator at the time, and I'm glad they're gone.
Barbara? I'm not letting you in any at all.
I'm here. Well, yeah, there's a lot of unusual stuff too, and two of the stories that struck me really funny is the architecture, and that is the flower pot house and the spaceship house.
Yes, now the spaceship house, that's in Carlisle, Ohio, and another part of that is that it's on this road that I drive by every day, and I see this thing every day. It's the house on Riverside in Hillcrest in Dayton. Anyway, the reason it's remarkable in its own way, because it's a real monument to a really bad divorce. What had happened to this couple bought this house, and they built this house, and they loved it, and things went bad, and the husband took a chainsaw and sawed it in half and moved his part of the half of the house to somewhere in Piqua. I've been trying to chase down, where exactly in Piqua it went to, but the half of the house that's, if you can imagine the gable being, like the triangle shape, cut in half, still exists, and I've got pictures of it on my Facebook page, Ohio Legends /Jeff Wilson. It's very crazy things. There are some real resolute Ohioans out there that are doing some crazy stuff. Now the spaceship house, that's wonderful in its own way, because it's only one of a few of them that are left. And I was doing a little bit of research on them. I forgot the name of the manufacturer, but it's said to, because it insulated so well, that you could supposedly heat the whole house with one candle. Now, it's just, one of those things you hear, and it just kind of passes through, but that's again another story.
Well, that looks like two spaceships houses, actually.
Yeah, well, actually, he had two of them built, and he also kind of put a tunnel in between so it would enlarge it. And it's still out there in Carlisle, Ohio. That one I've seen.
I hear it's occupied.
Yes, people are living there, and also they don't want you to pull up in their driveway, because every now and again they have people who nearly run off the road because they see something. It actually does look like two spaceships, and they've had trouble with everyone driving down the driveway and taking pictures. And you got to respect their privacy, a little bit, but they are living in a place that's a little paranormal,
So it's an unidentified flying house.
It don't fly, but it's certified odd. But,
well, their company was trying to build a lot of them, but those are the last, I guess, 2 or 3 that's remaining, aren't they?
That's true. There was another couple, but it's remarkable in its own way. But then again, it doesn't look homey and have its own kind of happy charm.
So what's the deal with the flower pot house?
Well, the flower pot house, that was just there's this garden center, and it's just it's actually basically just a potting shed that they have for the nursery, and it's just one of those wonderful eye-catching things that you drive down the road and you just have to stop and wonder what's going on. The roadside attractions. So there was so many of these wonderfully crazy Ohioans out there that are doing odd things. That now this one, I'll admit, is not in book 1. It's in 2. Of course, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but this one I discovered and nearly wrecked my car. I was driving down the road in Dublin, Ohio. Now, Dublin, Ohio is a beautiful community. They've got the Jack Nicklaus design golf course there. So it's very big on the PGA Tour. But also, I drove down this road, and here they have, in this field in Dublin, Ohio, nearly 200 concrete ears of corns that they're standing upright in an otherwise empty field. Each one of them weighs like 1,500 pounds. And it's said to it was one of these art projects that the city of Dublin paid for this installation, and it said to remind Ohioans of our agricultural past, but most people just call it corn hairs. And but like I said, I just, as I was driving down, I had to get a picture of it because I just wondered what was going on here. So it's crazy wonderful.
Now, the other one that I think, was you talking about this one also, Barbara, called the Residence of Mr. Felis Caddis? It's on page 28. It was, looks like a house designed by
yeah, it's
a cat.
A house with a cat. Frank Lloyd Wright designed it.
Yeah.
Are you there, Barb?
I am there. I'm looking it up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Looking it up.
Because it was a cat. Yeah.
Yep. It's got a cat.
I have to tell you.
Kind of like Garfield and Heathcliff collided in the...
Well, I have to tell you, this one is a very selfish story of mine that I absolutely had to do because, you know, of course it's Frank Lloyd Wright and all that, but in the lower right-hand corner, I got a chance to draw a Clyburn cat, and that was pretty much all the impetus for me to start that story because the Clyburn cat was a well merchandised with calendars and stuff like that a few years ago, and I always just loved the look of the thing, and I was pretty much, you know, I have a lot of places where I want to show off and have fun with it, but that's pretty much why I did that story. But it's another one of those strange stories. But please go ahead. Now on the paranormal stuff, I really should start talking about the paranormal stuff because that's where we are tonight. Yeah. So let's see. Let's start with is there anything that you guys would like to know about? Let's say the Crossroad Monster.
Page 59.
Or, let's see, Bessie, the Loch Ness Monster of Lake Erie. What kind of stories would you like to hear about?
Page 59, the Hasserot Angel.
Oh, no, that one is really neat, see, because it is another one of those selfish things that I did because I really wanted to draw this monument for the Hasserot family. The Hasserot family was they're still around. They have this terrific food service and vending service. They're very big in Central Ohio. But again, it's one of those drawings that I had to do because it was so compelling. Now, my rendering of the photographs doesn't do it justice because at this Lakewood Cemetery in Cleveland, this statue has the bronze has acquired a patina over time on the and that has stained the face of the angel of death, and the angel of death has a torch that has been extinguished. You know, it's been inverted and extinguished. It's to represent the angel of death, and the stains on the face of the angel appear to be tears, and have greatly moved a lot of people. So, but it's another one of those stories that some of the stuff that's in cemeteries around here. Now it's just one of it could be, you know, I'm sure it's you can ascribe it to understandable, you know, just water stain, but it's one of those things where as it happened on this cemetery thing, it was pretty amazing. So
Yeah,
but
it resembles tears, so...
yes. So there's also, I lost her, Osa Wilson. Now, hers is a complicated story, so But it's not in Ohio Legends 1. I can't I can't find it now. Anyway,
It's page 61.
61.
61?
Yeah.
God, you guys know
I was going to say that myself.
Oh, yeah, I got it all wrote down.
No, 60. That's yes. Anyway, can I go through the story for the people at home?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, there was in Ironton, Ohio. Okay, there was this lady her name was Osa Wilson. She had 6 kids, and she died a terrible death in 1911 at the age of 34. Her husband was physically abusive, and Osa was 7 months pregnant. And on this staircase, or near the staircase, the legend goes that her husband hit her so violently that she tumbled down the stairs, and they lost both the baby and Osa Wilson. She died. But her husband was one of those kind of nuts that kind of overcompensated, so he went deep in debt and had this marvelous life-size statue done of his wife that was a good likeness, descending the staircase. And, to divert suspicion for what he had done, and he told everybody it was an elaborate monument for his undying love for his wife. But the thing about it is, now I talked to some people who have sent me the story, and they say that they had seen it, and other people that have said that they can't make it out. But the majority of people say, now, on her face, there is a stain that looks to be a perfect size and everything for an outline of a man's hand on the side of her cheek. And it pretty much, to some people say they swear it's there. There have been efforts to sandblast it so that, the cemetery doesn't become like some kind of roadside attraction. That the sandblasting hasn't affected the stain that's on the side of her face. It pretty much tells the untold story. Like I said, some of my readers have seen it, and others haven't seen it, but it's one of those things where it may only appear, when the humidity is correct, or may not even exist at all. But it's another one of those creepy but true Ohio stories.
And if we can go to one of my favorites, and that is the Nightmare Museum.
Oh yes. Now that one, I wouldn't even try my hand at drawing that one. I just put the pictures in there because I thought,
That's
I don't
page
believe it.
134.
But it's true and it exists. And
Page 134.
God, you guys are very faster than mine. You guys are faster than mine. 134. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's awful, isn't it? But, it's...
Awesome.
Yes, it is awesome. I suppose it's awesome, but it's one of those things where I did the page, and that was it. I said, I'm moving on. It's scaring me too much. It really is. Because, it's all very well and good to write about these things, these weird stuff that happen, and it's all very well and good to draw these little drawings, but I can't be like you guys who walk into a place that is actively haunted, and there are reports of it. No, thanks. I'll stay at home in front of my drawing table, and I'll write about it and I'll talk about it. But I won't go there after dark.
Well, it also looks like somebody, there's drawings in there too, so that people have been drawing the nightmares as well.
Where?
I think the drawings are probably of previous dummies or something, or designs or such like that.
Okay, it has some pictures of this guy's collection of dummies that he has in his they call it the Vent Museum. The Vent is like a trade word for ventriloquist. Yeah. So, but it's like I said, it was one of those stories that I did quickly and didn't look back, because there are some things that I admit I'm chicken, but actually, what you're seeing from this last edition that I had includes a story that actually happened to me. See, once upon a time when I started this whole thing, I had made up my mind: no paranormal, no, that's just too weird. People don't believe you anyway. Until I was working as a courier for an overnight freight company that will remain nameless. Anyway, I work downtown Dayton after dark. And whenever you work by yourself, in downtown Dayton after dark, you're very cautious of the people that are around you. So I went to at 40 North Main Street, I went to the Kettering Tower. And in the base of the Kettering Tower, they have a drop box where people put their documents in, and the job that I would do as a courier would be to pick up the documents and make sure the drop box was in good shape, and leave. Anyway, I rode the elevator down to the basement, which is a very creepy place anyway, and did my work for the day, and had all these documents and boxes for the freight in this kind of a tub that I carried that had two handles on the side of it. I rode the elevator up, and in this lobby of the Kettering Tower, which is a pretty goodly sized building in Dayton, there were the kind of collection of loafers that they had, and the cleaning crew and everything. And like I said, by being frightened of being perceived as some predator, because there are people that will knock you over the head and take $5 from you. Anyway, I was making my exit, and there was this strange little man that was off to my right, full body, full color and everything like that. And it wasn't a ghost. And I walked close enough to where I could have reached my hand out and touched him. But anyway, what I did was I turned around, and since my hands were holding this tub full of docs, I took my hip and hit the push bar of the door and to open it, and when I turned around and opened it with my butt, this guy was gone. Okay, now the guy in the space of 1/2 of a second was there once, and he was just gone. I mean, the security people that were down there at their desk, this is, like I said, a goodly sized lobby to a mezzanine to this very big building downtown Dayton. There was no way that this guy could have got away that quickly. He was there, he was 3D, full color, and he was gone like that. And it was one of those things where sometimes it takes me a while, because I'm sometimes not too bright, to understand what had just happened. And by that time I was in my truck. And I finished the route in record time that night, and got back to the station. So for me, it was like a kind of a pivotal moment where I decided that, look, I saw something that shouldn't have been there, and I started saying, well, maybe we can put some of the paranormal stuff in the books now. So that's about that with that story. So.
To me, one of the most frightening things in your book was White Castles. And for some reason,
the hamburgers are pretty scary.
Yeah. For some reason, I associated them with Illinois, and I don't know why. But they're a product of Columbus, Ohio.
Yes, and it's strange again that you should mention this, because with my sign business directly across the street, and I mean directly across the street, within a stone's throw, they built a new White Castle factory where they turn out their sliders by the thousands and stuff like that. And there aren't any White Castle restaurants around, within a close enough drive so I can have a sack full. But every mid-morning and afternoon, you can smell those hamburgers and onions, and it just drives me crazy. But you can't, because I can't get them, you know.
Well, we had a White Castle.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say in New Jersey, at the pretty much at the conjunction of Verona, Montclair, and Cedar Grove was a White Castle, which eventually went away. But for the longest time, my college friends would we should go to White Castle. And what drove me crazy is I like plain burgers. I don't like onions. I don't mind being cooked in onions. It's one thing, but having the onions on there. And I would tell them, I say, I don't want onions, no onions on the burger. And they would just serve it as though I hadn't said anything. And so I would just pick the onions off and drop them on the counter saying, I said no onions. But yeah, and of course there's Harold and Kumar's film, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, which is a cult classic comedy.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I was surprised that Wendy's is also Ohio origin.
And of course, hothead burgers, and oh my goodness,
I'm a big Wendy's fan.
Yeah, well, so am I too. You caught me to the quick. There are 2 or 3 other big restaurant chains that once upon a time when Ponderosa was big around here. There was a lot of other things. But see, Ohio is like a really unique place because amongst a lot of the big franchisers and big people, they consider Ohio great because it's demographic. It's got the right swirly and mix of married and unmarried, single, and all different wage rates and stuff like that. So they often try the new products out in Ohio. So it's not unusual, for you to go down in your local grocery store, and like they had a few years ago, they're really overstocked with Crystal Pepsi, or all these, cleaners that really work, but for some reason, because they consider this kind of a middle America thing, because one of the reasons is, of course, logistics. The old National Trail and Dixie Highway had their intersection here, and now it's I-70 and I-75. But that's also, and I read also somewhere that like half of the United States population lives within a 500-mile radius of Columbus, Ohio, which again make me understand. This is not about the people. It's about logistics, and it's about demographics. That's why we see a lot of new Tombstone pizzas around.
Sure, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because White Castle had the architecture, and again, White Castle burger stands were up everywhere, and I think that there's even one still out here, not in operation, but the building still exists.
Mm-hmm. Now, how I'm stumped. How are you terrified of White Castles?
Well,
what happened in Illinois? Or should I ask? No, I'm not asking. No, I didn't ask that.
No, they have the reputation of, not being called sliders for a reason.
Don't say no more. Hold on. Yes, back on the more serious note. Yes.
Okay.
And Jeffrey, have you got something? I know you got to ask about something. Have you read any of the stories here that made you say, "Oh, come on"?
regarding White Castle?
No.
Well, regarding just about anything, because you've been.
Well, like I said, I haven't read Volume 2 yet. Well, I spent a weekend or so visiting someone I knew who was attending Hiram College, and I was taken to one of the most awesome places I've ever been, and I swear I'm still trying to figure out how to write a story so I could film a script there called Nelson Ledges.
Nelson.
Are you aware of Nelson Ledges?
Oh no, but it sounds like a good one. I love it. Come on.
Nelson Ledges. Picture a huge stone, miles and miles across, that has been worn down by erosion and water for millions and millions of years, creating this little maze and labyrinth of like hallways in the rock. And there's this beautiful waterfall nearby, and it's Nelson Ledges is part of a park. I can't remember if it was Nelson Ledges Park or what. And it's near Hiram, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And you can walk on the bottom of these gorges that are literally you can spread out your arms and just about touch the walls. And up above, since it's only about a 5 or 6 foot thing, you can hop across these deep gorges because it's all flat on top. And when I was there, there were people who were practicing rappelling because there's a giant opening, which at one point was underwater, and now it's just this giant cave. And it's just, I was just so impressed with how awesome this was. And it's been decades since I've been there. So, but yeah, that's something I wasn't sure was going to be in the book. And I thought, what are doing volume 2? And so now you found something you need to check out because it's really awesome. I'm sure it's got a great backstory.
I think, was it Garfield that went to Hiram College also?
I don't know. This was someone I went to high school with.
Oh, okay.
And she was attending at the time, so she said, "Yeah, you should come out for a weekend." And I came out, and we did, shenanigans and other weird stuff. But yeah, that going through Nelson Ledges, all I could think of was, I really need to come back here someday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I think now see the whole thing about Garfield. He attended Hiram College, the linkage that I have about it, and I ran across a news story about 3 months ago where someone had stolen the head off the Garfield statue that they had there, and not surprisingly, after a week or so, it turned up. But whenever they went to replace the head on the statue, they were sure to put some kind of electronic marker on there, so that way if the head got stolen again, they could lead the police to where the head was. Did you hear anything about that?
No. I didn't realize they had little low jacks for statue heads.
I didn't know that they needed one. So, but I did a story here in one about Garfield. He was born in Orange, Ohio. Anyway, he attended Hiram University, but in order to pay for his college tuition, he worked there as a janitor. And I was wondering what might have been the dynamic between him and the other kids, and attending together at the same time. Then he went on to become a general in the Civil War, I believe. He was well known for his courage under fire and all that. But he was assassinated in office in 1881, and today most historians and medical experts agree that Garfield didn't die from his injuries, but he died from poor medical treatment.
Wow. And that was the one where they had him on the iron spring bed, and they were trying to use some sort of device, almost like an early MRI, and it was getting weird readings because they didn't realize the metal from the bed was screwing it up. They were trying to locate the bullet.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. That's the, yes, that was true. Yeah, because, and the thing about it is they were saying that at the Pan American Exposition they had going on, they had one of the first X-ray machines where they could have located the bullet that had launched. But the doctor that they had, that was one of these total in-charge doctors, pretty much said, that won't work. And he went about looking for the bullet by sticking a bristle in the wound, which was kind of horrible.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's I would much rather be alive today than back then. But also, there's an story.
Okay. I got one here for all those who wear them little pointy hats. You might say witches. You got one in here about the Wicked Witch of the West. Page 82. Yeah.
I love that.
Page 82.
Page 82. Yeah, that's about Margaret Hamilton, the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yep.
What a wonderful woman she was. She started out as a kindergarten teacher. Can you believe that?
Yep.
I mean, and one of the students was William Wyndham, the character actor that was so great. He did Thurber in My World and Welcome to It. And of course, you remember Jim Backus, right? You know, Mr.
Yeah.
And
He played Mr.
And Thurston
Magoo.
Howell III.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thurston Howell III. I'm an old TV fan. I'm still stuck on that. But yeah. But signing or doing an autograph as WWW, huh? But I was wrong earlier. No, about the Pan American Exposition. It was actually McKinley, okay, who was shot at the Pan American Exhibition, and that's when they had some of the X-ray machines that were still in their infancy, where they could have located the bullet. I did a story about McKinley because he had a pretty distinguished career during the Civil War. He started out as a pirate, not a pirate, but a private, rather, and rose to the rank of major. He had this habit, all through his military career and his political life, of having a red carnation in the lapel of his suit. He wore it for good luck every day. And he attended the Pan American Exhibition that they had. It was they had a long line of people that had lined up to shake the president's hand. Well, that's all very well and good and everything. And he noticed there was a child that was very patiently waiting to be the next in line to shake the hand of the president. And he was touched by that, and so he took the red carnation, his good luck charm, and he gave it to a little girl. And the very next person that was in line was Leon, I believe it was Saltwitz, and he was an anarchist, and he shot McKinley twice, and he died. But it was always a strange thing that after he offered up his good luck charm, within an instant, it was mortal shot. So that's the and also to honor McKinley, Ohio made their state flower a red carnation. So if someone asks you, why is the red carnation the state flower of Ohio? Because I don't see so many around. You know what? Okay.
Yep. You don't give away your good luck charms.
No. Well, Jeffrey, do you have any other things that perhaps have maybe struck your fancy, or maybe we could help try?
Well, I was happy to see Margaret Hamilton mentioned, because in the last 20 or so years of her life, she and I have become friends.
Really?
She lived in Manhattan. We were correspondents and such, and I would see her at occasional Wizard of Oz events because it's my favorite movie in the whole world. Mm-hmm. And I was, at the time, and I won't get into the details of how I was sort of on the New Jersey press, but I would get invitations to screenings, and I had an 8 o'clock screening because I couldn't get to the 6 o'clock. And I was racing to there, and I had my then girlfriend with me. And as I was running from the Port Authority to my girlfriend's office, I turned a corner, and there's Margaret Hamilton with a tall escort. And for a second, I just said, "Oh, pardon me, Miss Hamilton," and I just ran around her. I didn't have a chance to say anything because I was late to get to my girlfriend. So she and I went to the 8 o'clock screening, and the 6 o'clock came out, and synchronistically, Margaret Hamilton had been on her way to the 6 o'clock screening, of which I had no idea. So, and I didn't bring up the fact that she and I had almost collided on the street, but she was very happy to see me, and we were talking, and a friend of hers by the door saying, "Maggie, we're leaving," and she said, "Just a moment, I'm talking to my friend." And we finished up our conversation. I was just like on cloud nine, and it was just really cool. I was always very pleased to be considered a friend by her.
Is it true that she wouldn't let her children see The Wizard of Oz for like years and years?
I don't know. I never asked. I know that there's a famous Sesame Street episode she was on that traumatized so many children that they wouldn't re-air it.
Yes, I remember that. What was it that I had read somewhere also that she had said, I have frightened more children than anyone. But I understand she was just a very gentle soul, and she was big on animal rights and stuff like that. But she was just a really sweet person that just, kind of was the archetype for the witch, But,
exactly. Well, she did a cameo role in a Bud Cort movie called Brewster McCloud. The joke was that you never really got a good look at her. You knew it was her, but like something would just be obscuring her face, and her character dies, and they're running sort of like an obit story from the news, and they show that her character is wearing ruby slippers.
Oh, wow. That's a nice touch. That is a nice touch. Incredible. I have never known anybody or met anybody that has met anybody. So thank you very much. This has been a red letter day for me, Jeffrey. I appreciate it.
Okay. Barbara, you've been awful quiet.
I'm just letting them talk.
I'm just letting
Because there's a whole bunch more in here we need to talk about. Like, for instance, the real Men in Black.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And this is going back to the 1940s.
Yes. I gotta get to the table of contents and find that page. I can't believe you guys are always faster than I am.
It's page 104.
That's it. 104.
I knew that. I was just testing you. But anyway, I always think of Men in Black as the Men in Black movies and all of that. But when I actually started doing research and finding out that this was a real sighting. This actually happened to someone, and I guess the first one was in 1967. The first sighting when Karen Carpenter, this lady from Milford, Ohio, was nearly abducted by two identical-looking men in tailored suits that were driving a '49 Buick Roadmaster, and she was able to get away from them. But it was one of the first reported sightings of the Men in Black, and the whole phenomenon kind of grew up around that. Carpenter said that this '49 Roadmaster had that new car smell. They had a very, very odd accent. But a month before, Carpenter had reported to the police that she had seen a creature that she called the Mothman. But that's another story. Want to hear about the Mothman?
Very pleasant.
I'm sorry, Jeffrey, I couldn't hear.
We're well aware of the Virginia Mothman and the festivals they have for them and all that.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm preaching to the choir, I guess.
So, but it was on the Ohio-West Virginia border?
Yeah, but I like to think of it more as an Ohio thing, because when you go back to the whole prehistory of what was it? I believe it was the Delaware Indians that had all the legends about it. And they used to leave offerings of food outside their villages for the Mothman, and they blamed the Mothman for carrying off their children sometimes and blighting crops. But it's one of those things that are really tough to nail down because the indigenous peoples that were here were not big on a written history with dates and times and exact places. So it's another one of those things that are tough to chase down. But great movie though, a lot of fun.
That's true.
Hey, you got anything? I want to get everybody talking about this book now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention that Ohio Legends 1 and 2 is available on Amazon.com and also through 25 different historical societies throughout the state because they sell them as fundraisers. And, of course, my Ohio Legends / Jeff Wilson Facebook page has a shop section where you can buy these books and have them delivered to your door by a representative of the United States Postal Service. And that's a little announcement from Ohio Legends Department of Shameless Commerce.
I guess if we're going to talk some about the monsters on page 77. 77. The Loveland Frogman.
Loveland.
The Loveland Frog. Now, there's been some developments on that one. There's some pictures that somebody posted recently and claimed they had an encounter with the Loveland Frog, but it's one of those things where the pictures are kind of grainy and they look a little, but so I didn't put anything about it in the book. But there is even now the Loveland Frog has been like a center for this whole, the town of Loveland, Ohio, to kind of make their own kind of summer festival to bring everybody out and have them buy candied apples and whatever. But there is they have a big bluegrass festival there, which is bluegrass is very, very big in southern Ohio, and they announced they also have a musical about the Loveland Frog that they're starting to play or do. I didn't think that it would work as a musical myself, but apparently it's. Now, if you're not familiar with the Loveland Frog story, actually the sightings first started in 1955, where a fellow was driving down the road and he saw 3 frog-like creatures that were standing upright on 2 legs that had some kind of baton-like thing between them that emitted sparks. And there has been a bunch of different sightings, some substantiated, some not, over the years. But the one that got the most attention was on March 3rd, 1972, where 2 Loveland policemen had sighted the Loveland Frog, and one of them actually emptied his gun at it as it jumped off a bridge, and I think it's on the little Miami side, I'm not really sure. But anyway, the point of it is he emptied his gun at it, and there was no report that was filed, and somehow or other it got leaked to the press, and suddenly there were stories about these frogmen who were taking over the town of Loveland, and they became huge creatures and all of this, but the patrolman, Mark Matthews, the one who had shot at the creature, he grew tired of all the publicity, and he said it was only somebody's pet alligator or something, and it wasn't over 3 foot long. But there are still sightings that are going on. Like I said, with Loveland, Ohio, they kind of embraced it the way Point Pleasant has done the Mothman, and with a big festival to hold in, I think it's Nesbitt Park, and it's billed as a family-oriented event.
Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised. I can understand, the idea of a cop panicking and just emptying his clip, and I can almost understand no report being filed as far as, well, I just saw a weird, prequel to The Shape of Water or something. But I'm surprised no report was filed for the fact that he discharged his weapon.
That's true. It's one of those things where you wonder, is this just another legend? Is this, but, don't they have reports that they have to make? And, but then again, on balance, you think, well, we're in Ohio, this is a small Ohio community, so maybe they're not, bound by the strictures of larger communities, I guess. I'm fishing here, I admit, but that does remind me about the pretty much the same thing happened. They had an armed guard inside the United States Air Force Museum, and supposedly the Air Force Museum that's in Fairborn, Ohio, which is not far from Dayton, is one of the most haunted places in all of Ohio because of all the old warbirds that they had. And according to the story that appeared in the newspaper, but again, didn't have, enough information for me to sink my teeth into and, come up with something where a guard was there. And of course, they have this one hangar where all the suspended ceiling lights and this huge aircraft hangar is swinging in unison. But supposedly, something rushed at this guard and frightened him enough where he emptied his gun at it. Okay, now, one of the problems that I have with the story is, A, what's a security guard doing with a gun? Shouldn't even just have pepper spray or, one of those taser things. And B, around this priceless aircraft, would you really want somebody shooting off a gun? So it's another one of those stories that you want to believe you want, but it just doesn't hold up. You know what I'm saying, Jeffrey?
Kind of sensationalized a bit?
Yes. But I didn't want to put anything that was like that. That was just reaching just a little too far. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We got.
I have to say, you don't want to be shooting a gun. You don't want to be shooting a gun off inside a museum of any sort.
No. But much like some of this aircraft is there. It's just an amazing place. What's really, but I do believe that there are some of the warbirds there that have people attached to them in a way that I just don't understand, because I'm not psychic or spiritual or anything like that, but if you have the time when you're passing through Ohio to stop at the museum, it has a lot of very strange vibes, especially around the Holocaust exhibits that they have there. Amazing place, though. Amazing place.
Yeah, I got one.
You should go out to Barbara's neck of the wood and visit the USS Hornet.
Really? Man, I'd like to see a real warship, because it's my brain has never got past the ideas. These things are as big as a city. Well, they pretty much are a city,
Yeah.
Immense and huge. I mean, they're made out of concrete, and concrete floats. I don't understand that, But it's another one of those things. I'm fortunate because I'm going to be retiring in a month or so, and I've made it my big issue that I'm going to go and I'm going to visit every place I've written about. And I'm going to go see for myself, and because there are some wacky places in Ohio, and well, it's just a reflection of the people that live here, I guess.
Yeah, there is a lot of them. I got one more paranormal place to talk about, and you can talk about the story if you want. It's on page 131, and this is a pretty old place, and it's called Utopia.
Yes, Utopia, Ohio. That's one of those things where on my Facebook page, Ohio Legend / Jeff Wilson. Anyway, I have a bunch of other pictures that and have been taken of the remnants of this kind of chapel that they built on the spot. Now, they were told by people when they this was in Franklin Township in Claremont County. They were told by the residents, don't build your church, that close to the water, because we sometimes flood here and we get some pretty nasty floods. So originally, the people that originally built the place, it was a commune, and they all would, put their money together, and they would live in this kind of like utopian communal society, and that's why they named the town Utopia. And it was a wonderful idea, but they found out that after a few years that people just don't get along very well sometimes. And so that kind of broke up, and since the building was unoccupied, there was a spiritualist by the name of John Otis Waddles who bought it, and they moved into this 30-room meeting house that the Utopian commune used. And again, they were told also, don't live there, don't be that close to this river, because it does flow. It does flood sometimes. And on December 13th of 1847, when Waddles, the guy who was the leader of this cult, gathered all his people inside, there was a flash flood, and it struck the 30-room meeting house and collapsed the walls, and 150 of the 156 people who were inside the building at the time drowned. But the point is, the story, it's been another one of those ongoing points of recurring witnesses have seen, especially on rainy nights, ghosts that rise from the water and appear to be dripping wet. So it's another one of those places that I'll probably skip on my tour because it's just a little too scary for me.
You should go ghost hunting with Henry then.
No, thank you. How about if I stay outside in the car, okay?
It's not.
No, the reason I'm saying is because it'd be interesting to see who'd get to the door first.
I'm sorry. I'm pretty fast. I'm pretty fast. Now here's another weird story that's one of my personal favorites. Okay, it's not paranormal. We'll get back to the creatures in a minute. But have you ever heard of the Toledo War? You guys ever heard about that?
The Toledo War? Hold on.
Yeah, the Toledo War.
Just a minute.
Okay,
I got it. It's here. Danny the Irishman.
It's at page 128. It's
What is it?
What?
Oh, different one.
the state of Michigan and the state of Ohio armed militias, and they sent them out in 1835 to do battle against each other because of a poorly drawn boundary line that was between Ohio and Michigan. So these two armies set out to fight over the state's boundary line, believe it or not. But a lot of the bloodshed was avoided because the two armies got lost in the swamps near Perrysburg, Ohio, and were not able to find each other. Now, today, disputes between Ohio and Michigan are settled on the football field instead of the battlefield. But that was true. They were going to fight, but they just kind of got lost and couldn't actually find each other. So
I'm amazed that there's the swamps, yeah.
Yeah, I was afraid they were like, "Yeah, you can have it."
I put something on Facebook on it, and the guy said, "Whoever lost got Toledo." Oh man!
You also.
I'm amazed that there's swamps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well.
Ohio is a really strange place because most of us think of it as like a pool table, all green and flat and everything. But I ran a series of on the Facebook page about, it's kind of like Where's Waldo, only I did a drawing of me dressed up in the red and white striped outfit, and there's all these like tremendous gorges and waterfalls and and cliffs and stuff in Ohio, in different parts of Ohio, because like I said, it's a very strange state. It's it's by the time you think you have it figured out, you're nowhere close to what was going on. But anyway, back to the monsters. Any stories that you might have seen, perhaps that might have struck something on you, or I'll wait.
The one clarifying question I had about the Toledo War was, if they got lost in the swamp, were they lost as in never seen again, or did they just find their way back out?
No, they found their way back out, but one army just couldn't find another, and after a while they just gave up and went. So that's
okay.
That's just that's okay. But they gave it a decent try over like 4 or 5 weeks to try to meet each other and do battle, and because they were all very serious over it. But after a while, it kind of fizzled, and when it did fizzle, actually there was a village that was close to the swamps, and it's called Fizzle, Ohio, believe it or not, because that's where both sides just kind of said, I give up, I go home. Fizzle, Ohio. That's another one of those odd things that when you try to get the backstory, the backstory is often weirder than the original story about it. Any other questions?
Let's see, Play-Doh was invented in Ohio?
Yeah, Play-Doh and Preparation H.
Yep,
and
Preparation H.
Now this is a story from Ohio Legend 2. I'm throwing other things at you, but we're talking about inventions and especially on topographical stuff and just, stuff that you use every day and you see every day. There was a food chemist. Now his name was Dr. Frederick Bauer, okay? And if I can find him, he worked for Procter and Gamble, and in Cincinnati. He got his doctorate from Ohio State University. But the fun thing about this guy is he wound up being for Procter and Gamble. Not only was the food storage technician, but he ended up touring all the plants that P&G had, and for food sanitation. But in 1970, he invented this container for them to make Pringles potato chips in, a cylindrical container. And he went on to write a lot of books about food service and plant sterilization and everything like that. It was pretty much well respected in the field. But he was so proud of his Pringles container that he asked his family to bury him in one.
Wow.
His family honored his request, and he was cremated, and his ashes were placed in a Pringles container, and his remains were, spread upon a lake somewhere or a river close to Cincinnati. But if you ever see the character that's on the Pringles can, he's kind of he's got a crown of a wild mustache, and his hair down the middle. That is really a caricature of Dr. Frederick Bauer. He was born in Toledo, Ohio, too. It's one of those nutty things that I came across and I just can't let go of, So we've covered, let's see, a lot of things. Let's see.
We also have one more that's actually kind of interesting.
Go ahead.
And that is that Ohio almost had like a Chernobyl event.
Yes.
Yes.
With a nuclear power plant.
Yes, that's the power reactor in Piqua, Ohio. Piqua wanted to have their own utilities, and in the whole idea, power, nuclear power thing was really attractive. But they had a couple of near accidents with the rods overheating, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission pretty much shut them down, and they backfilled the reactor itself with sand and concrete, and the rest of the cleanup is going to take some time because to go in and clean up the rest of the nuclear waste that's at the bottom of the reactor itself, it's too dangerous to be close to for the next 125 years. So this reactor is still there, and it's deactivated and all and everything. But like I said, it's still hot. So it's another one of those stories that I come across and say, "Oh no!" But it's true.
Now,
Yeah.
our time is
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just, but I have a lot of stories about women in my books because I'm pretty fond of them. But I'll be doing, I think it's in late October for the Progressive Women's Society in Warren, Ohio. I'll be showcasing all these incredible women that are from Ohio, and there are some pretty amazing stories about them too. That they're not. These women are not victims. Let me tell you.
Well, you got Gloria Steinem there.
Yeah, Gloria Steinem. What can you say? There's just not enough to say about her. I mean, she's just, she went on the cover at a Playboy Bunny Club, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, what a woman. I was stuck on this one lady. There's Nanny Kelly Wright. Did you ever see anything about her? Of course, now I can't find it. Well.
Oh, I got it right here. She's on page 143.
Thank you so much, Patti. Hang with smart people, things get done. 143. I love this stuff. Really good. 143. Yes, I love this. Okay, yes. The world's only Iron Master. Okay? When she was born, Nanny Scott Honchel, and she married Senator Lindsey Kelly, the owner of the Senate Furnace in Lawrence County, Ohio. Anyway, he died, and during there was a panic, and also there was, of course, the Great Depression, and she was nearly penniless, and she took all of her resources and combined them with everything that she had and any note that she could call in, and actually bought the mines that had gone into receivership after her husband's death. Now, they mined limestone and different ores, and what Nanny would do, because things are so desperately hard financially, she would actually dress in men's clothes and work alongside her people inside the mine. She was a very tough woman. Well, as the economy turned and she regained her fortune, and she married a New York financier who was 21 years her junior, and by this time she was pretty much in her zenith financially, and she was the richest woman in America or in the world. She was only second to Queen Victoria, and she was a mighty tough lady. There were so many stories about this lady and her pretty much her courage and independence and stuff like that. It just goes on and on. The books at first, they got some weird stuff in it and this, but basically it's a story of the people. These people who just don't give up or don't back down, and I've been having a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to share with you guys. It really has.
Our time is running right on out, and I want to remind people that this is a great book. We haven't even covered hardly any of it, but the stories and everything, you must remember, is about people from Ohio, and I don't know, there's 6, 7 presidents from Ohio. There's like ivory soap was made in Ohio, just on and on and on, all kinds of these little tidbits and stories that he has in the book. So it's a great little book if you want to get and just, have it laying out on your coffee table. People stop by, want to read it, or if you want to pick one up and just read it at night. It's got a lot of great stories in it, and we've just been talking about Volume 1. Volume 2 is the same way, and he's also working on Volume 3. So I do want to thank you,
Plus,
Jeff.
I'll have links.
Oh, do you? Go ahead.
I was going to say on my report page for the show tonight, there will be links to each of the volumes, which of course will be updated when 3 becomes available. So you can, I'll be posting that link to the page on Facebook, Paranormal View Facebook page, and on Twitter.
All right. And like I said, great guest, and want to thank you for taking time to be with us tonight. There's a lot more in this book, and I mean, there's even World War II heroes or Civil War. You had one about the youngest boy, and I think he was 10 years old when he went off to fight for the Union side of the Civil War.
George Van Zandt was his name.
Yeah, George Van Zandt, and he's from Ohio, 10 years old. And he went through the war, and
Well, the astronauts.
no, he wasn't an astronaut. But
No, I'm just saying in the book.
oh, yeah, yes, there's astronauts. Yeah, there's everything in the
Maybe
book
not
in
fight
there.
for the Union. Or the Confederacy.
So, Jeff, I want to give you just a minute to tell people how they can follow you on Facebook and whatever other site you're on, and how they can get your books real quick.
Well, my website is jeffgould.net, GEOFFGOULD.net. On Facebook, you can follow me, just look me up, Jeffrey Gould. You can also follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at RealBadger, RealBadger. And I also admin the Facebook/The Paranormal View page, so I try and post interesting articles throughout the week. So,
And I was talking
and go to
about
paranormalview.com.
I was talking about Jeff Wilson.
Wow.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
That was a great recap. That was great. I wish I had done that. But anyway, yes, my books, Ohio Legends Volume 1 and Volume 2 are available at Amazon.com, and also available through the shop section of our Facebook page. Also available through many historic societies throughout Ohio. And follow us on our Facebook page, Ohio Legends /Jeff Wilson. And of course, there's my website, which is Ohio Legends Books. And I want to thank you guys, all you guys again, because you've been very kind and very patient with me. And buy a book.
We want you to stay on for a couple of minutes till we're off, and we'll talk with you for a minute or two.
Okay.
So next week we have Tina Marie Ronan with us, so join us next week. This is Henry Foister.
Jeffrey Gould.
And Barbara Duncan.
And we'll see you next week at the same time. So good night, everybody. You've been listening to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. Join us again next week at the same time for more of the Paranormal View.